Welcome to another episode of the FAQCrew GM chat. I have Kat with me today and she'll introduce herself right now.
Hi, I'm Kat. You can find me on Twitter under Cat Tulip. I am a very new DM. I D&D for a group called D&D on the Fly.
Alright, so let's get started with how did you get into role-playing and DMing?
So role-playing, all my friends that I've known for the last 10, 12 years have always played role-play. It was something that I was weirdly not interested in, which I thought, now being into it seems odd because I've always done like acting and drama. But for some reason I just didn't think D&D was for me. I didn't get it. I used to watch their sessions sometimes because I love a good story and I enjoyed that element. And then actually, the reason I actually first role played was my other half wanted to do a D&D session for his birthday. And we were having a conversation about it and he wasn't sure if he was going to do it. And I was like, no, this is it. This is me putting my foot down. You're doing what you want for your birthday. And I even literally put my foot down. At which point he said, well, fine. But then in that case, you've got to play as well. And I was like, oh, okay. So did that session. That was it was based on the Vampire Masquerade system, right. But it was just in modern with real people, no vampires, but it used this sort of D10 system. And I really liked that, and that was really good fun. And then he was playing a campaign with a friend, and they used to do it at our house, and I used to watch the sessions. And his GM at the time was a really good mate of mine and was like, you have so many ideas and you think outside the box. He's like, why aren't you playing? And then at that moment I created my very first character, and I've got very attached to her. I have a habit of always playing dark and sneaky characters, so that's how I first got into roleplay and D&D. And then from there me and my other half obviously started watching Critical Role. And we hadn't played D&D for a while, and we were kind of going, oh, do you know what, watching it's great, but I need to play it. So we talked about doing some sessions, and did we know anyone who would DM? And originally me, him and my sister were going to take it in turns, and we were all going to give it a go. Yeah. I did one session, and they were like, nah, we're not DMing. They were like, you are too good, and my sister, who's actually an author, said that she felt that I should be the natural DM, I write books. After, she's like, I can't do that. She's like, you think, because you have a story, you have an idea, and then they go completely in a different direction, you're going, shit, I haven't created anybody for you to talk to over there. Quickly, villager, accent, whole conversation. So, yeah. That's how it happened, and now I have a regular group. There's 4 players. They're all new, but yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And when DMing, do you use a pre-created setting or module, or did you build the world from the ground up?
No, because I thought, hey, I'm a brand new DM. I've never done 5th edition. I'd never even done a sort of D20 system. I went, well, do you know what? Rather than getting a set system or a set story that's all planned, let's build it from the ground. So, yeah, built the whole story, the campaign, the world, the NPCs. I doing that all myself, deciding where they go, and largely, hence the D&D on the fly, make it up.
Yeah. All right. How did you go about the world building process?
Probably rather lazily compared to a lot of other DMs. I watch and read a lot about that Matt Mercer does, and I just think I wish I could spend that much time world building. With this particular world, the story had been in my head for a while, and the advantage, I've set it in a setting I'm very familiar with. I read a lot of fantasy, so that's helped me build the base structure of how I imagine the world. And then I just try and take it town and village at a time and expand it out. I have a rough idea of the kind of gods I want in it. I have an idea of what the battle between good and evil is going to be. But I also actually let a lot of what my players have created in their backstories lead what I've done. Because I didn't create the world before I got the group, what happened is I got a group and then they went, we want a campaign. And I went, oh, I don't have a world. that's allowed me to kind of bring their stories in really nicely and build the world up that way. And I've used a lot of systems online that have helped me build stats for villagers and towns because I had no idea. I have used a lot of inspiration from other people that I've spoken to. So yeah, it's kind of a hybrid of everything, and it's largely floating around in my head where I can see it all at all times.
All right. Okay. Since you answered my next questions, I have another one.
Sorry,
It's fine. That's how it's supposed to go,
I
actually.
talk too much.
So you said you had the conflict between good and evil figured out. Was that something that was important to you? That there had to be a kind of a evil and good factions?
It hadn't been initially. What worked really well is actually the introduction of the Paladin, who is an incredibly righteous character. My friend she impresses me so much. She's playing a male Paladin. He's so devoutly strict with what he believes, and that really helped create a sense of righteousness and what's right and wrong. And I already wanted to create an entity that was of a sort of demonic nature that had created a lot of the more demonic races and had been responsible for it. So this really helped me balance out and have that idea of good and evil. And I really hope they don't watch this, but there's a little bit where they're going to become the champions of their chosen, well, not necessarily their chosen, the religion and the deity that has chosen them, they will become champions of, and then they should hopefully vanquish the evil.
All right, okay. Because I'm asking because today one of my players asked me, what's the biggest power of evil in your world? And I like, actually, it's not about good and evil in this world, but about order and chaos.
Okay.
I never really thought about it until I was asked. Wait.
Like that.
There is no evil god that's only on
It's
random
all
destruction.
evil.
Yeah, kind of. Or all good.
Maybe it's not that there's no evil, there's just no good.
Yeah, right.
I won't tell them that.
Okay, so the campaign you run, what's it like? What's the focus? Where is it supposed to head? Is it role-playing heavy? Is it combat heavy? Is it exploration heavy?
It's a little bit of both. I try and do as much combat as they want to do because I've got one of the characters is predominantly a fighter, so for him the most fun he gets is smashing things. I mean, his character is intelligence 7. Yep. He doesn't do a lot of thinking. He's basically the grog of the group. So for that player, it's, he feels the most he gets into the game is during the fighting, although I do point out to him that he's playing a really stupid character, and he's not stupid. I mean, he's the person who normally thinks of the plan, so it's quite fun watching him go, oh, my character wouldn't think of a plan here, but I've got like 5. I have to wait for everyone else to say stuff. So there is a lot of combat, and because, sometimes it's just nice to smash stuff. It's nice to hit things. Yeah. But I do really like a roleplay heavy game. I love creating the companionship between them, the interactions. Some of my favourite moments have come out of the role playing. I really do like it in a session where we had a particular session where I had given them a shared terrifying dream from the evil entity that basically got into their head and was like, I found you and I'm going to destroy you all. And that terrified them, and it really shook them up. Especially, we have a druid gnome she's very sweet, she's very innocent, she's very book learnt, and she's never left her library. And this is the first time out, and she was terrified because she doesn't know fear whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then, not long after that, they got into an encounter, and it was just one of those awful moments where they roll badly. Enemy rolls well, and yeah, you know those ones.
Yep.
And I took down one of the players' hit points to 0, which is fine because he's a half-orc, so he obviously bounced back up to 1.
Yeah.
But I then described the scene as almost they literally in front of their eyes, especially for Keradanth, who's the gnome, I was like, in front of your eyes, you see Karuk die. And for all intents and purposes, for seconds, which stretch like minutes, you think he's dead. And then the relentless endurance kicks in and he sort of stands back up. So, because that's how in my head I imagine that happening. Honestly, the character was so upset. Karuk's her favourite, it's her buddy, their best friend. She's a little gnome, he's a grumpy half-orc. They're beautiful together. And they had this whole conversation about how he can't do that to her again, he can't die, she doesn't want to lose him. And they're both nearly crying, I'm nearly crying, and in the end one of the players was like, I need to stop this because I am actually going to cry. And it was kind of a weird moment for her because that was my sister, Karuk's my boyfriend, and I'm the DM, and we're like, oh, we're about to have this really weird moment where we all cry together. So I really like that roleplay aspect. I really like it when they come up with ideas when they know their character well enough to go, in this situation, my character's going to do this. Mm-hmm. So I've got a trickster, illusionist, wizard who just likes to piss around. He likes to make illusions. He thinks he's the greatest wizard there is. And I like it when he doesn't think about, oh, we should be sneaking here. He's like, well, I'm a Merrill. I want to do fireworks, so that's what I'm going to do. And I really like that aspect as well. But yeah, the focus, I mean, at the moment, they're really, really low characters. We started them off from 1, which is possibly the most terrifying experience I've had because I'm like, everything can kill you. Stepping out of the tavern can kill you. And now, to be fair, they're level 4 and my wizard still only has 15 hit points and I'm like...
Yeah.
You're like, just stand at the back, it's fine.
Yep.
But yeah, so the focus is they are on a journey to... they've discovered that there is something growing in their world, that there is a hint that this has been before and has been vanquished before. It seems to be a very strong fight between demonic and potentially angelic entities. They have no idea that a lot of the history of the land before has disappeared, so they're learning things about how that once it was only man who walked on the earth, and then after the First War something happened to divide the bloodlines, and slowly all the other different sort of elves and gnomes and dwarfs were all created from the energy and the magic that was used in the demonic angelic war. I had been watching quite a lot of Shannara Chronicles at the time. I don't deny I'm really influenced by what I read and what I watch.
That's fine.
So they don't realise it, but there is an order that have been there since the beginning of time to stop this evil from rising, and that order is looking for a champion or champions, and what they don't realise is they will hopefully become the champions, work it out, find the order, vanquish the negative order. I basically have an order of 3 which are good. It's going to be 2 paladins and a cleric, and on the other side I'm going to have 2 evil cleric, like an evil cleric and 2 evil paladins, so I get to basically play both sides of those characters.
Nice.
That's why I did it. They will at some point, they will meet some monks who are part of the order, who are protecting a weapon that will help them vanquish it. That really happened because I saw the monk in Critical Role and went, I want to play a monk! I'm writing a monk into my campaign.
Sure.
So now I have 3 level 20 monks that will appear.
Nice.
So yeah. So then that's the idea, that they will eventually go and find these particular items. They will realise their destiny, and eventually they should hopefully go and vanquish hordes of evil.
Sounds good.
And I mean hordes.
Yeah. That's how it's supposed to go in the end. How much prep time do you put into a session of what you call D&D on the fly?
D&D on the fly. Well, because it's D on the fly, probably... I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys. I know we've talked before about prep time and how much prep people should and shouldn't do. It really depends on what I'm prepping. So I have spent quite a lot of time thinking and writing about the greater world, the history, the larger story behind what they're doing. That I have had to spend quite a lot of time on to form the ideas of how we came from just humans down to these different races. For a session, it can be quite short time. It depends. If I'm already halfway through a storyline that I've already got quite a lot of planning for, I always have a combination of encounters for them. So if they kind of get to the point where I'm like, oh, I haven't got any more ideas, I'll throw a fight at them. I usually have like 3 or 4 pre-planned fights. I'm like, oh, you're walking on the road and this comes out at you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but other times, when I did the bits with the dream sequence, and I've done a couple of other dream sequences where they each had their own one from the deity that chosen them, that obviously takes me quite a bit of a while to write, because I actually write that properly, because I know that otherwise on the day I'll fluff it up, I'll forget one of the points I meant to say. Largely I try and just bullet point notes, because the problem I have is there's a lot written down, between trying to keep an eye on them and listen to everything they say and check this rule and roll that dice and try and read what's written down. I just try and stick with bullet points. So I'll have the town name, I'll have a couple of points about what the mood of the town is, who's in charge, is there a tavern, if so, what it's called. I've got a handful of tavern names that I like to pull out. Normally something along the lines of the slaughtered lamb to upset my druid. There's a whole in-joke within the campaign about the fact that she's a vegetarian, and Spiritus, the paladin, thinks that meat is a very holy thing because it fuels you and it fuels your holy war, and it's good to eat meat. But he doesn't understand that Ceradanth maybe doesn't want to eat meat and why she keeps getting upset. But Corrupt, who has been around groups before, he's worked it out, so occasionally he keeps making jokes about eating like goats, and she really wants a pet goat and they keep threatening to eat it. So yeah, there is usually something along those lines in my tavern names just to upset her again. Because I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's just simple notes. I don't want a lot of it, they'll walk into town and I know that they need to find a piece of information, or that they have a story hook or a goal while they're there, and I have that goal written down, or I have that piece of information, or what the mission is, and then I just go, how do you want to proceed? And if they decide they want to go to a tavern, I will on the spot create an NPC who gives them the information in a tavern, or because I know my players all think differently, and there's no point me saying, right, you have to go to the guard of the town and he will give you the information, because they'll go, well, we're going to go and get drunk in the pub for like 4 hours. So I basically, all my NPCs, I try, unless if they're an important NPC to the story or vital to that particular mission, then I'll have their name written down. Otherwise, they just meet people and they're normally called Jed.
All right.
I have literally a Jed in every village and town and city. It's our thing.
Yeah. Okay. So, who would you blame as an influence on your DMing style?
Do you know what? Actually, I have to say, probably because it's what helped me become a DM. I am very influenced by Matt Mercer. I really like the idea of how fair he is. I love when he's so proud of his players. That moment where he's got a great monster or NPC and they beat him. They work out how to get, and he looks so proud of them. When they get that final hit, he looks so pleased, and I want to be that DM. I've got quite a few friends, many different ways of DMing. I've got a friend who's also called Matt, who is a wonderful DM and has inspired me greatly as well. But I've got other friends who say, it's all about trying to get one over on the players and screw them up and keep them scared, and I can make a level 4 character sweat with a level 1 monster. And I'm like, that's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, that's not how I want to do this game. If they do something really well, like when I had some monstery insect thing that was a fly in the room and my druid turned into a spider and web slung it and it was incapacitated, and someone said to me, wow, you're a DM, you could have just fudged the roll and said it saved it. And I was like, I don't want to, because I'm so proud that she came up with that idea.
Yeah.
I was like, genius! You turned into a spider, climbed the wall, and you've incapacitated it. Amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to beat me. I want them to prove how, you know, that they are the champions that their characters are becoming.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say I'm really influenced by Matt Mercer's style. I try and be fair, and I try and, you know, let them do some bit of role playing, but I do try and hurry them along, because they do really sometimes get off the point, and you're like, guys, right in the middle of a crucial moment here. But I also would have to say that I'm really influenced by everyone I meet on Twitter. You know, every conversation I have with you guys, you know, secret chat groups, and that we have generally on Twitter, helps me, because each of you have experience and knowledge that you can bring to the table. And, you know, the thing I'm learning is that some people, it doesn't matter how much time you've been doing it, everyone has a different idea and a different opinion. And, you know, every day I talk to you guys, I do think that helps me be a best DM. It helps me kind of think about my style. You know, actually, when we had the conversation about whether you should save a character or not as a DM,
yeah.
And I took quite a lot of inspiration from that. I loved some of the responses people came up with and the ideas, and I really like the idea that actually, you know, there is nothing wrong with if they come up with a really great idea to circumvent death. There's nothing wrong with going with it. Yeah, they might get punishment, they might get something terrible later, but, you know, I actually really like it when they're ingenious and they come up with creative ideas. So, yeah.
Okay, so did you have characters die in your campaigns yet? And, well, how would you handle it, or how did you handle it?
The closest I've come was when we had the incident with Corrupt. I haven't had anyone actually die yet. Not in a campaign that I've DM'd. With that one, because it was the first one and it was my boyfriend, I did spend an awful lot of time going, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to nearly kill you, I'm so sorry. But actually he helped me think better about it. He had a really great attitude, because he said, do you know what, I don't care, bring it. He's like, if Corrupt dies, I'll play a monk.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do something else. And I was like, do you know what? Actually, yeah, it is awful. And, you know, the newer players who haven't, we've got two very, very new players who never had characters. One of them was like, don't you care about your character? And he said, yeah, I do, but I can care about another character. I can write another. There's nothing to stop me writing another character. And I was like, that really makes a point. If one of your players is saying, actually, do you know what? I just love D&D so much. I don't mind who I play. I'll come back as someone else. But I mean, I've been in campaigns, and I've had friends in campaigns where people have died, and I know some GMs who have said, oh no, don't worry, you didn't die, you didn't really. And some people who've gone, no, that's it, tough. I played one campaign where someone went up against an NPC too early on and was going to get annihilated, and him and the GM came to an agreement, because we were still right in the middle of the story, that we wanted the story to continue rather than death. But I suppose it depends, because you need to create some kind of danger for your players. Yeah. And the problem with that incident was, it was great because we got to carry on, but we all knew about it, and there was this element of, well, then we aren't really going to die, so we don't have that fear, which I think actually quite helps with the role-playing aspect.
Okay, so and would you, concerning, well, bringing people back, would you go the player's handbook route, where it says, okay, you know, you have this spell and it works, or would you do the Mercer way and, you know, put a little extra on it?
I think, you know, I really like what he does when he puts the extra on it. It does create more tension, and there's this element of, because they usually have to do several stages sometimes, there is an element of failure, but it also gives them an element of triumph once they succeed. I think I would wait and see what the circumstances determined, whether doing the Mercer way creates a great role play, but I also, it's about testing how the player feels. You don't want them to be in a situation where they could have succeeded just by doing the spell, but you do this whole long thing and then they fail and they're really upset. because actually, mainly, I enjoy playing D&D with this group. They're some of my closest friends, and that's as important for me.
Hmm.
We'll see. I'll let you know when it actually happens what I do.
All right. Okay. Let's move on to your favorite anecdote as a player and as a DM.
As a DM, I mean, it's any anecdote that involves Ceradanth and Karuk. It's any, in fact, it's not even any anecdote, it's any story that involves them. I did have one where the druid was trying to teach our paladin, who I should also say is a dragonborn, how to kiss.
Right.
Because she was explaining about the story about the princess who was woken with a kiss. Ceradanth can't tell the difference between the fantasy book she's read and the reality and textbooks and theories. And she was telling him about this princess who had been woken with a kiss, and Spiritus is only 16 and has no idea, he's been in a monastery, what a kiss is. So she's trying to show him how to kiss, and then I've got the player who's the Dragonborn Paladin pretending to try and kiss with lizard like teeth and like lizard mouth, like trying to do that. And Karuk just walks in and they're just like, what is this? And it honestly, it went on for about 10 minutes, and in the end he looks at me and Ceradanth is like, I don't know why you're looking at a liar. And he's like, because my NPC I play with them is called Liar. And he went, I'm not looking at Liar, I'm looking at the DM to stop this. And I was like, no, this is going to be the session all night now. I've had a couple of weird moments with them. We did as a one-off with just the guy who plays Karuk and the girl who plays Ceradanth. I did a level 20 monks. I basically test ran the characters for the later campaign and created their backstory. And because I've only got the pieces I've got are specific to their current PCs, so as they were playing with these other characters they had to have their current PC markers, at which point I then ended up in a 5-minute conversation on whether this was actually Karuk and Ceradanth playing D&D around the campfire and whether I was actually Liar and how far into the D&D we were going. And I was just like, I can't, because they were slipping between the conversations and I was just like, oh god, I can't cope. As a player, I think I enjoyed. See, my character didn't do a lot in that she wasn't very funny. She didn't have any nice anecdotes. She was a trained spy who had been brought up since birth, pretty much as a trained spy. She'd known nothing else. She was totally and utterly indoctrinated into it, and she had absolutely no sense of humour and largely just punched things. But she did get to spend a really fun time with 2 other characters who, in the Vampire Masquerade system, were basically 1 point away from being taken off the PCs on their humanity scale. They were almost monsters. So she became the most humane character, and she's a trained sociopathic killer.
Yeah.
Compared to these 2 monsters, and that was really great fun because she basically used to like tease them and hang out with that became quite funny, but they were better. The anecdotes were better for those characters. We had a guy who he thought about 1 million ideas a minute, and he'd spurt all of them out, and you'd be like, those are all that one's good. And he just would do things, and we had the GM at the time was the kind of person who everything was planned, and if you planned, he'd already got a plan against your plan and a counter plan for that other plan and a plan on top of that plan. And the best way to deal with him was just to do random. Just go, I'm suddenly going to start shooting things. And the player at the time, that's pretty much what he did. And just the amount of times he killed an NPC way earlier than they'd even completed their storyline. He got bored one night, went out, was like, I'm going to kill him. And French was like, you've just killed my entire story for that character. And it's like, yeah, that's what I've done. Moving on.
Nice. All right. Okay. So to finish up, any advice you have for DMs or people who might think about DMing and aren't quite sure yet if they should?
Okay, for people who haven't DM'd yet or are new, aren't sure if they should, my honest advice is do it. I thought it was going to be the most terrifying thing I did in my life. I constantly spent my first session apologising profusely to my players. I apologised for having to check my notes every time I needed to check an action or a spell. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't know anything. And after a while, I kind of settled into it and went, well, I don't have to know everything. You know, even some of the best DMs still go, oh, hang on, I can't quite remember what that spell is, so I'm just going to check that. So I'd say just do it. Don't worry about the rules too much. You will get a hang of them. I try and always tell myself at the end of the day, it's my world. If I decide something goes a particular way, it is my world. You know, they're not going to turn up at my front door and go, we wrote the rule system and you changed a rule. You know, it's my campaign. So I'd say don't worry. For anyone who's being a DM, I'd say for me the vital thing has been communication with my players. I've had one of my players was really reluctant and dragging his feet on a backstory. He's the kind of person who he loves building the stats, PC game wise. He's all over that. But creating a story and a backstory, he's not that kind of gamer. He's done so much PC. He doesn't, you know, he's like, why do I need to know where they, you know, what their family was? And I'm like, because I need to know. So in the end, I said to him, look, you've got two choices. You've got 2 weeks to get me a backstory in, or I'm writing your backstory for you, and you have no say in what I do with your character.
Yeah.
You know, that's your choice. And he said to me, well, which is going to be more work for you? And I was like, to be honest, if you create a backstory, I've still got to fit it into my world, because I want you all to have moments that are key to you. Whereas if I write it for you, I can already fit you into my world. So, and actually that, because he was like, okay, I want you to do that then. You take care of it. And that's really helped. He's settled into the game so much because I don't think he's got that weighing down on him. So I'd just say communication, talk to your players, have fun, do it because you enjoy it, do NPCs because you love them. I have an NPC called Jed because I love him, because they fell in love with him the first time they met him, and now he's hanging out with them for a little while and going on a journey till they get to the main city. And yeah, just relax.
All right. So thank you very much, Kat. That was fun.
Right.
And yeah, keep keep having fun in your campaign. And people can find you on Twitter at
Cat Tulip.
All right, that will be in the description. Anything else you want to promote, plug?
You can also find me on WordPress. I do some writing. I sometimes write about D&D on the fly. You can find that on WordPress, again, under Cat Tulip.
All right. So, yeah, all of that will be put in the description, so it's easier to look up. Thank you very much again, Kat. That was fun.
Thanks. It was good fun. Thank you for that. Take care.
Bye-bye.